Hello. Hi, Oddings. Welcome to the Something Scary Fan Hour. Sorry if I look kind of gross. I feel a little nauseous, which is cool. I've got a puppy in my lap. Oh, wait, hang on. How do I do this? Let's see. Hi, Random Crystal, Malik, Nazar, Karmalove, Andrea Doolin. I don't know a username. Valerie Cordero, Sophia Diaz, Miku Chibi, Stella Marie, Creative Waffles 7208, Zabadil Martinez. How is everybody doing? So I know I have not been doing live streams, or I haven't really been doing like a story live streams in a while, but that's because um you guys were calling me out for reusing stories in the podcast. But that's what this is. Yeah, because it takes a long time to find stories, and then it takes a while to edit them to make them really good. Anyways, so I decided to go back to the OG fan hour today because we're gonna be going back to, or not back to, we're gonna be starting to do monthly live streams now, once a month for the first week of the month. Yeah, that way I can make it more special. I don't know. Swarm of bees. What happened to my hand? It's a fantastic question. Nothing really. I'm wearing it preventatively, because my wrists just suck. Because like when you're on the computer all day, using a keyboard all day, drawing all day, it's like you I don't know, maybe something's wrong with me, but it helps when I wear this. Excuse me, let me keep it straight. Oh my gosh, I'm so gassy and nauseous, so that's cool. Oh, this is Lola. If you don't know, a lot of you in the chat already know Lola. Say hello, Baba. She hates me. Anyways, Pretty Shea, thank you for the super chat. How can I submit a story? That's a fantastic question. If you look right here on the screen, it says email your stories to somethingscary@snarl.com. So, okay, let's get into it, y'all. So today I'm gonna read 3 stories, maybe. I don't know how long they're gonna take, so we'll see how I feel. Jessica, Annika, and Anastasia, thank you. Wet Sock, thank you for the super chat. Star Ski, did you experience anything paranormal? Mm, do you mean like recently? No, I've never experienced anything paranormal. So, Sapphire, I'm at your window. Wow, I like how I actually looked. I'm an idiot. Moonlight super chat. I love you and my birthday is soon. Well, happy birthday, Moonlight, with a 1 in the light. Anyways, wow, guys, I'm feeling like a little loopy because my body is doing stuff that I don't like. All right, okay, let's get into it. Oh, that's a very tiny, tiny font. We're gonna make that bigger. Yeah, my eyes are very. Okay, so this is stories from Jessica from South Africa. I don't think I've done many African stories, so this is cool. All right, Lola, come here. Oh, my big goosh. All right. Okay, careful, careful. You make me feel better. Here we go. My family comes from South Africa, and my grandmother was part of a large family of 14 children and their parents. I think I'm too soft. What do you think? Let's turn me up a bit. Hello, hello. This is me talking. Hello, 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 hello. Okay. Okay. They're colored Africans. Ooh, that might be too loud now. They're colored Africans, which means they were discriminated by the white people as they lived during apartheid. Because of this, they weren't allowed to go to beaches where it was safe and protected by lifeguards or go to a swimming pool or camp in known campgrounds. It was an awful time for them, but it seemed to bring them closer together as a family, having to look out for each other constantly. One day, my great grandmother, Annette, decided that it'd be a good idea to go camping near a beach that no white person used. She knew they'd be left alone there. She gathered all her 14 children, some of which had their own kids at the time. She even invited some family friends too, so there were many, many people at the camp. It all started out really fun. People were dancing, eating, drinking, and playing in the channel of water that led out to the sea. My mother and some of her cousins waved to one of my grand's brothers who was driving a boat around, looking for fish to eat that night. A few hours later, when everyone was starting to settle down to make dinner, they heard a splash in the ocean and a cry for help. My grandmother and some other uncles ran to the shore and looked out. My grandmother's sister, Wilma, was splashing hard and trying to keep her head above water. My great-grandma Annette started screaming as she realized her daughter was caught in an underwater torrent. Thinking fast, my uncles, grandfather, and some family friends linked hands and formed a human chain, with Grandpa at the end getting closer to Wilma. They were able to grab her arm and pass her down each person until she safely got to shore. It would have been happy and relieving for great-granny Annette, but unfortunately, more cries for help rang out into the evening. She looked up and saw that all those who were linked in the chain were now also caught in the rip. They were now too far out for the rest of the family to reach and could only helplessly watch them drift further and further away. Luckily, just as my grandpa was about to drown, a passing fishing boat happened to hear him splashing and came to help, pulling him from the water. But there was no sight of the others. They searched all night, walking up and down the shore. It was only in the early hours of the morning when they found one of the men. He'd washed up on the shore, face down and turning blue. He was dead. My great-grandmother Annette never found the bodies of her sons. Soon after the incident, the family held a memorial for the brothers. Annette sat quietly out of the way, wondering if she'll ever know what happened to her babies. Next to her, there was a man lying on the couch, drinking heavily. No one really paid him any attention. He suddenly sat up, a sober look on his face, and snapped his head towards Annette. The room seemed to grow darker, and noise became flushed out. He then started speaking Zulu, her husband's native tribe's language. "I know where your sons are," he said in his strange voice. Annette's eyes lit up. "Where? Where's my babies? Are they alive?" The man smirked almost mockingly. "The spirits say they're in a cave, under the water. A fish is eating the brains of one of them, out of a scar on his head." Her eyes went wide when she heard this. One of her children had brain surgery a while ago, which left a scar on his head. The man continued, "Don't bother trying to look for them. You will never find your children." The man then fell back on the couch and passed out. Annette looked around to see if anyone else noticed, but no one seemed to hear what the man said. Annette asked who the man was, and her friend told her that he was the town drunk who used to read fortunes. They tossed the drunk out, who seemingly had no idea of what he just said. But Annette knew, and she remembered it forever. Years later, along came me and my brother. For as long as we can remember, we never liked going far out in the ocean water. Knee deep, and that's it. There's no reason we should have been afraid. Nothing traumatic ever happened to us regarding the sea. But my brother has a theory. He thinks that we're the reincarnations of our great uncles who were lost that night at the beach. I wonder, perhaps he's right. I've had a fear of water from since I was born, and I've heard that our irrational fears can be explained by how we died in a past life. So one day I asked my great-grandmother where the scar on my great-uncle's head was. She parted my hair a bit at the top and touched the spot. "Right there." "Huh. Curious." She paused and continued to stare at my head. "What's wrong?" I asked. "You have a birthmark, right where his scar was." Ever since then, she looked at me and my brother much differently. I think that she actually believed that we could very well be the reincarnations of her boys. And it's great that she was able to find peace in that way. But that didn't change the fact that I was still terrified of the water, or that I would dream about the moment my uncle died every single night. Woo! Spooky, spooky. Okay, sorry, hang on. Let's adjust the puppy. Oh, we got a couple of super chats in that. Jazz A. Hi, Sapphire. I love what you do, and I really enjoy all of the work you put into Something Scary. You really inspire me as I wish to become an animator. Aw, yay. Female animators? Female animators. Yay, we need more of you. Starsky, anyone gotcha life? I don't get it. I'm too old for that reference. All right, let's do this next one. Oof, I do not feel well. Something's wrong with me. Okay. This one comes from Annika. I'm not sure. My entire life, I've always been somewhat of a magnet for paranormal things. We moved around a lot when I was younger, and I can count 4 haunted houses that I lived in. It's always just been little things, dishes shattering, doors slamming, footsteps, maybe the occasional whisper in the dark. But the worst by far was my house on Grove Street. When I was in 1st grade, my mom, brother, and I moved into a house with our grandparents. For the sake of anyone who may live there now, I won't disclose the name of the exact street, so we'll just call it Grove Street. I was 6 and my brother was 3 at the time and could utter out a few whole words and was just starting to walk properly. My mom slept in a room across from me and my brothers, and we all slept in the basement. Our grandparents didn't have room for us on the ground floor, so they did up the basement to make it feel more like home. And surprisingly, it did. You think it would feel extremely dingy and cold, but it was actually quite warm and cozy. Crap, I didn't bring water. Still, the basement had this really weird energy to it, and despite the myriad of windows and lamps, it always seemed just a little too dark. But despite sharing a room with my younger brother and living in the dark basement, I was just happy to be closer with the rest of my family. I remember moving in and feeling a little uneasy. I didn't know if any paranormal experiences might follow me to our new place, but the move was stressing my mom out enough, so I stayed quiet. The first incident happened about a month after we moved in. It was the middle of the night, and I had a horrific dream. The silhouette of a man in a top hat stood in my doorway. He just stood there, and then he began to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then he lunged at me and whispered in my ear, "You are mine." It was then that I woke up in a cold sweat. Just then, I noticed screaming and crying paired with a loud knocking. I looked over and my brother wasn't in his bed. I walked out into the living room, assuming that he just had a bad dream and Mom's door handle wouldn't budge. That happened a lot. I was on my way to help him with the handle, but he wasn't there. The banging seemed to be on the basement door. I walked across the game room and looked around the wall and up the staircase. There he was, my brother. I walked up to try to get him to come back to bed, but I realized that he was asleep. He just stood there. His eyes were closed delicately, but he was banging on the closed basement door, and there was a continuous stream of tears cascading down his round pink cheeks. He just kept screaming, "Let me out! He's coming! He's coming! He's coming to get us! Let me out!" I put my hand on his shoulder, and suddenly he went silent and turned his head to face me. He stopped crying and whispered, "He's here," and then went limp. My mom came rushing up the stairs and brought my brother back to bed. Needless to say, I slept with my mom that night. My grandparents went on frequent business trips, leaving all of us alone in the house, my mom, brother, and I. Unfortunately, my brother's sleepwalking was the new normal. Almost every night was the same. Around 2:30, we would wake up to pounding on the basement door and warnings being screamed from his little voice. My grandparents didn't believe me. My brother didn't remember, and I don't think my mom wanted to believe it. It only ever seemed to happen when they were gone. I'm told that one night my grandma was putting me to sleep when she turned the light off. It was then that I began to cry. I begged my and my dog left me. I begged my grandma not to leave. She was perplexed by my sudden panic. What's wrong? Through tears, I managed to choke out, "The man in the doorway, he's scaring me." She slowly turned around, but she claimed she saw nothing. I saw it, though. It was the same man from my dreams, with the top hat, standing halfway through the doorway, peering in at me with a great big smile. She tried to soothe my tears, but I just kept screaming about a man wearing a top hat in the doorway. Eventually, my grandma shut the door and helped me get sleep. This carried on for a while when at last my mom got a job in another state and we prepared to move. I was 7 at the time, and there's one thing I'd never told anyone about. As we drove away for the final time, I looked at our house on Grove Street. My mom started the car and I leaned my head against the window. It was weird. Despite all the misery this house had caused me, there was something in me, something that didn't want to leave. After a second, I saw the curtains move. That's strange, I wondered. Everyone is outside saying goodbye, so who is in the house? But then a hand pushed the curtains aside, revealing a man in his mid-30s, wearing a suit and top hat. He made eye contact with me and smiled, but his smile revealed 2 rows of jagged, sharp, yellowing teeth. Then I heard a whisper in my head. "I found you once. I'll keep finding you." I screamed and started crying. My family didn't know what to do, so my mom ended up cutting our goodbye short and driving away from the house. These days, I still haven't told anyone about that last moment. There's been no need to. I think I'm okay. But the stuff I've told my family about, they tell me that I was just a little girl with an overactive imagination. Maybe they're right, but I know one thing for sure. I was never completely alone in my house on Grove Street. Ooh, thank you, Annika or Annika, I don't know how to say it. Why did you leave me, Lola? Romeo Sincere, thank you for the 2 super chats. Starsky, can you give a hint of the next scary video? Okay, water. Takes place near water. And that's your hint. Okay, I'm feeling like not great, so I'm gonna end this now so I can go to the bathroom. Yay, thank you guys for joining me. Fruity Vlogs, Emily Riggs, Christian Sanchez, Alex Lozano, Yo Girl Ray, Young Mysteries, Grace Cruiser, Alex Lopez, that Mad Fox guy, and Elisa Foley, Red Eye, Gage Coop, Sniper Fox. Thank you guys so much. The next fan hour is going to be in a month. It's going to be the first week of April. So I will see you then. And if you haven't, check out our Patreon. It's you are supporting the show and the channel, and also getting really cool behind the scenes perks and stuff. What else do you get? Like, you can get like a character in the show named after you. You can have your story personally read and responded to by me, and a bunch of other stuff. So go check it out. The link is in the description below. Also, what was the other thing? Oh, and then tomorrow I'm going to be the guest on Rachel's Dark 5 podcast. Dark 5 is back, if you did not know, as a podcast. So if you have iTunes, Stitcher, Megaphone, Castbox, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anything. It's literally everywhere that a podcast is available, so go check it out. We talk about tarot cards, and I give her a tarot reading, and it's super cool. I mean, I think it's cool. But yeah, so look out for that tomorrow. Bye.